Commissioners, Gina Eugenia Montoya-Ortega, Assessor, Doñana County. I acknowledge and appreciate the audit finding. My thanks to JAG. My thanks to Mr. Maestas, State Auditor. I have been asking of this since I started my first week. And I'd like to read my response that I had to the audit finding. The assessor acknowledges and appreciates the audit finding regarding the use of the 1% valuation fund for salaries and operational expenses. These expenditures were approved by the Doñana County Board of County Commission long before my time in office. Over the past 10 years, the valuation fund revenue was approximately $14 million. And due to the approved expenditure from the Doñana County Board of County Commission, it's been depleted, which reflects the long-standing approved budget structure. The assessor's office has had to operate within approved budgets. And this current assessor, Gina Montoya-Ortega, has consistently requested for the past 3 years corrective action requiring immediate structural correction to ensure compliance with New Mexico state statute. The assistant county manager stated that integrating long-term goals into the budgeting process would provide the Doñana County Board of Commission and the public with a transparent view of how funding supports both immediate operations and long-term stability of the county tax base. The assessor's office has consistently provided this level of transparency. The assessor has presented the annual report each year to the Doñana County Board of County Commission and the public, provided transparent valuation data and compliance with statutory requirements, communicated operational conditions, including funding limitations. The assessor has communicated to the Doñana County Board of County Commissions that the reappraisal efforts are currently at zero capacity due to funding constraints. The Doñana County Board of County Commission has expressed the expectation that a door-to-door reappraisal can be conducted in-house by the assessor's office. It is important to clarify that the assessor has a statutory obligation to maintain current and correct property values on an annual basis. The existing staff and resources of the assessor's office are fully allocated to meet the required yearly evaluation duties. The current staffing structure supports annual property valuation updates, processing of permits, sales, and ownership changes, protests, management, and statutory deadlines, ongoing compliance with state valuation requirements. The assessor's office does not have the staffing or resources necessary to conduct a county-wide door-to-door reappraisal in-house, in addition to its additional annual duties. Attempting to do so without additional resources would compromise the ability to meet statutory annual valuation requirements, increase the risk of non-compliance, create delays in core operation functions, reduce overall valuation accuracy and equity. The current staff is structured to maintain the annual valuation cycle, not to absorb a full reappraisal effort without additional funding or external support. Reappraisal expectations have continued. The funding structure required to support the reappraisal has not been addressed. Transparency has been consistently provided. However, transparency does not resolve structural funding deficiencies without corresponding budget action. This reference made by the assistant county manager trying corrective action to the end of the assessor's first 4-year term is not relevant to the statutory budget authority or compliance requirements. Assistant County Manager informed the auditor that corrections would be made on December 31st, 2026, rather than directing that the corrections begin immediately, no later than June 30th, 2026. Delaying corrective action until the end of the calendar year only continues the problem and increases the risk of further misuse of funds. If the county has identified that the valuation fund expenditures have been handled improperly, then corrective action should occur now, not months later. This issue is not only the past use of the 1% valuation fund, but also the county's continued delay in addressing it once it was brought forward. The assessor's office has already raised concerns about the lack of funding and the need to properly move expenses into the general fund. Waiting until December 31st to make correction ignores the urgency of the issue and allows the same improper practice to continue. This delay places the burden on the assessor's office for a problem that is beyond its authority to fix on its own. Budgeting transfers and funding corrections require action and approval from county leadership and the Doñana County Board of County Commissioners. For that reason, responsibility for the delay in correcting this issue does not rest solely on the assessor, particularly where the Doñana County Board of County Commission administration has acknowledged the problem but postponed corrective action. Budget corrections must occur through the biannual budget approval process, which is the legally established mechanism for allocating and adjusting county funding. The appropriate time to correct this issue was during the biennial process, and those requests were made for year 2027-2028 budget. The suggestion that long-term corrective actions be incorporated incrementally through the annual budget process is not aligned with the county's current transition to the biannual budget framework. Implementing partial or delayed corrections under this approach would conflict with the structure of the biannual budget, delay full compliance with audit requirements, extend the existing funding misalignment for an additional 2-year cycle or longer. In a biennial budgeting environment, failure to correct structural issues at the time of adoption effectively locks these issues in place for the duration of the budget period. My suggestion for a corrective action plan: immediate discontinuation of the improper 1% valuation fund use. Cease the use of the valuation fund for salaries and operational expenses. Reallocation and correction of the 1% value fund. The assessor recommends that all of the valuation fund expenditures that were applied to the salaries and operational costs be corrected and be reallocated back to the 1% valuation fund consistent with statutory intent and proper budget structure. As the Doñana County Board of County Commission is directing the assessor's office to proceed with the reappraisal in both reasonable and necessary, that the funding to perform this function be restored. The county exceeds the required reserves, so put my 1% back. Budget realignment biannual budget. Transition all assessors' operational costs to the general fund, salaries and benefits, operating expenses, systems and support. The timeline, FY 2027-2028 biannual budget adoption. Restrict valuation fund and use. Limit valuation fund uses for reappraisal projects, temporary project staffing, data collection, and field work. Contracted appraisal services. Timeline within 60 days. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Madam Assessor, are you talking about the budget or are you talking about the audit?
Part of the audit would require that the budget, that my 1% be used as for what it was originally set for.
Okay, I just need to address several things in that, and I apologize, but you made comments that budgets cannot be amended, or at least you're making that statement. And the budgets can be amended. That's the nature of the budget process. So I'm a little concerned that you made the comment that by approving a biannual budget that it's set in stone, and it's not set in stone. So I'm just a little concerned, and maybe it needs to be part of the further discussion to maybe understand how the budget process may work, but I feel like the statement you're making there is that the budget's set in stone, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but, you know, we can discuss that. We still have to discuss the budget after this, and that's why I was asking. I wasn't quite sure if we were discussing the audits or the budget.
Well, the audit does tie back to my budget, so thank you.